If you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that you're a hunter or you just enjoy the great outdoors. If you value your ability to hunt, now is the time to step up. There have been countless efforts to vilify hunters and denounce the legitimacy of the science-based wildlife management model. There's no science to this stance, and it is solely emotionally charged. We don't want to see what happened with the grizzly hunt replay itself again with the remaining large carnivores or big game species. It's a slippery slope, folks. We need to stand together. Now is the time for hunters to be united across all organizations and show our combined support. Please go to wildsheepsociety.com/act now and follow the steps. It doesn't take much time and it will help save the future of hunting. This applies to residents and non-residents alike. Please, let's use our voice and be heard. On with the show, folks. This is episode 17 of the Wilderness Locals podcast. On this episode, I talked with Trevor P. Thompson. Trevor is a retired Navy SEAL, hunter, artist, photographer, and all-around awesome dude. This podcast is brought to you by Kafaru International, the toughest hunting gear on the planet, bar none. Frontiersman gear, high-quality, completely custom, handmade knives made in the heart of the Peace Country. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Just Shooting Arrows, BC's premier archery shop. So, you're in Salt Lake City.
Yes, I am.
Did you grow up out there?
Oh, no way.
You're a Southern California boy, right?
Yeah, so I'm from Los Angeles, just north of LA originally, and have lived kind of all over the place. I spent some time in Chicago and some time in Hawaii when I was stationed out there, and then San Diego, and moved out to Salt Lake a couple of years ago.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't been down there since I don't know, 2006. I took some classes and stuff down there, and I mean that's a different place if you're into being in the city, but I could see how it would be pretty desirable to be out in the sticks out there, eh?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, it gave me the opportunity to be able to hunt and ski and snowboard and do all the things I want to do.
Nice. Is Black Rifle based out of Utah? I don't actually know.
Yeah, actually, so originally Black Rifle is based out of Salt Lake City, and we have an office here and one in San Antonio.
Oh, wicked. That company sure has blown up, hey?
Yeah, kind of exploded.
Yeah, there's some marketing monsters behind it for sure.
There are, and all the guys have really done a good job behind the marketing and understanding how to get the company to grow in an organic way and not kill the customer base in the process.
Yeah. I think a major component of it too, from my perspective, is you can tell everybody involved in Black Rifle is just authentic. Like you listen to interviews with Evan and with you and with Matt and all the other dudes, and you're like, those are guys I could hang out with. Those are cool dudes.
Yeah.
And that kind of sort of gets us to the podcast a little bit, because that's sort of what this thing is meant to be. And I mean, me and you have been chatting about it a little bit, and it's sort of just meant to be like a no BS chat, like the kind of thing we would do around a campfire at the end of a hunt anyways, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. I'm not trying to give full backstory and context on people's stories, but I mean, you're one of those dudes that when I sit down and start doing research on a guest, you're one of those guys that okay, he's Navy SEAL at a young age. He's a hunter. He's a guide. He's a photographer. He's an artist. He's a skydiver. He's this, that, and the other thing. And it's you have such a diverse library of stuff that you're into. The questions can go literally anywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
Yeah, for sure. How so to give a little bit of backstory, you signed up for the Navy in 2007, right?
Yeah, I did. So I went in and talked to a recruiter in late 2006 because I spent 2.5 or 3 months of time at the Chicago Art Institute, and I'm like, this shit is not for me. The war was kind of cranking pretty hard, and I wanted to do something. I didn't feel like I was contributing as a member of society, especially from a family that we've had a lot of people serve. And I felt like, if I'm even thinking about it, it's now or never, and got to give it a shot. And I did in '07 and spent 9 years in.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're around the same age. We talked about it, but you would have been in like what, grade 9 or 10 when 9/11 happened, right?
Yeah. Let me think about it. I was like 13 or 14. Yeah. 13.
So that would have been pretty, I mean, that's in your formative years and kind of I could see that maybe shaping some decisions too, right?
Yeah, it did, but it didn't affect me the same way as, there's guys that are in the teams that, some guys watch the towers come down, like in New York. So
yeah.
And they were already 18, 19, and like, it didn't affect me that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess like you said, your sort of inspiration to go that route came from family too, right?
Yeah. From family and, from books. I read a lot of stuff from guys from Vietnam, and just as a matter of, oh, that looks kind of neat and that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Not really understanding the implications of, I think a lot of those guys are writing those pieces in a cathartic way, not necessarily because they were cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that for sure. So, I mean, I don't want to gloss over your military career entirely, but I mean, you're talking to two Canadians that don't have the level of expertise to ask you questions that are meaningful about it. And I'm sure that there's many rabbit holes to go down there. Were you a hunter before you got into the Navy?
No, I was not at all.
Cool.
And actually, that was no fault of my parents, but both my grandparents hunted growing up, or both my grandfathers hunted growing up, and we just lived in Los Angeles. Like there's nothing to hunt for except open park space.
Yeah, I hear you. We recently we've been talking to this dude in California. I think his handle on Instagram's like traditional California bow hunter, and I guess there's not much to do down there unless you're in Northern California, right?
Yeah, there is hunting now that I've gotten into it that I've seen in Southern California. A lot of it's hogs and some deer and some upland game.
Yeah,
but I didn't even have the understanding of where to look for the resources. And granted, because of that, I didn't really put much time into even thinking about it, because if it's not part of your family culture, like you're not going to try and explore that option. So I didn't really hunt anything until I joined the Navy, and they taught me how to hunt other things besides animals.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's an interesting point. Is there do you find a lot of parallels
between what we learn there and what I do? Yeah. There's some, and I think a lot of it helps somebody who is a newer hunter, that if they're coming from the military, at least they have an understanding of how to plan their gear out. There's questions that you're not going to end up having to ask that I think you hear asked from a lot of newer hunters that don't have any experience in that sort of thing. Like, what kind of boots should I wear? What kind of pack should I have? And how should that feel? And, what's it like to be really quiet? And, why would I really be quiet? And those are things that we're taught and told and make sense.
Yeah.
For the reason that, that's an opponent that is looking for you, probably or possibly. And now most animals aren't doing that, but prey animals sure shit don't want to get shot or hit with a bow. So, they're kind of on a similar type of, roadmap.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you see that through social media, guys like you that get into hunting. It's like the jump from the ground level to getting into some of these more advanced hunts is much faster. And I often wondered that, like how much of it actually transfers over, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a lot, and I think it think it's helpful, and I'm really glad that I was able to do it.
Yeah.
And that I got into hunting because of the connections that I made in the SEAL teams. It's been life changing, and it's been fantastic for me.
Yeah. So how long have you been out now?
So I got out in 16.
Nice.
Yeah, so that would be like just over 4 years. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So then how quickly after that did you dive into hunting? Cause you're going pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm going. Well, I mean, is there any other way?
No.
Yeah, I'm going pretty hard. So I started hunting about a year and a half after I got out. And it was because, so Andy Stump and I are good friends. I've known him for a long time. And I had mentioned to him after he started bow hunting, hey, I'd really like to give that a shot if it ever comes up and there's a circumstance, like I'd rather go about that with a friend of mine and somebody that I trust that understands me. And so he called me in a spring, I don't know, whenever that was, 2017 or so.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, he called me and he said, hey man, do you have these dates off? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And he said, well, somebody just dropped out of a bear hunt. You want to come? I'm like, all right. So I know that there's some steps we have to get going here first. He goes, yeah. So you're going to come out to a turkey hunt. John Dudley will make you a bow and then he'll teach you how to shoot. And then you just have to practice a lot and you'll be good. And so the timeline there was going to be about a month and a half, FYI.
Yeah, that's fast.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But
that's awesome.
You had a good coach though. If Duds set you up and got you rolling, it could have been a lot worse,
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a disaster. Now, granted, I'm coming from a very specific background, and Andy knew that. He also knew that I had taught some combat rifle and pistol courses. Like, he understood I wasn't coming at this from being a total jackass or just assuming that I knew everything, or somebody that had zero hand-eye coordination in the realm of shooting a projectile. So I understood it, and John is easily one of the best coaches I've ever worked with.
Yeah,
no matter the skill set. So
yeah, I see a lot of guys. They don't get a good coach or a good start like that, and then they end up developing a whole bunch of bad things, and then it takes years to correct. So it's pretty important how you went about it. Was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good, and it was really fortuitous. And so when I get asked questions about how to get started now, I'm so new that I cannot tell people what to do. I might understand the concepts, but they're not part of my, genetic nature like it is with John. Like, I mean, he's been shooting a bow as long as I've been, running. So
yeah.
It's fantastic what he's been able to do for the community and the amount of free information that's out there, which makes it easy for me to point people that direction. Because even if you don't understand what's going on in those videos, if you watch them enough, you're going to get better coaching than you would probably get any other way if you just, dove feet first into trying it yourself.
Yeah. One of the components that might play a factor here too is about kind of your ability to stay motivated and get after it, right? I see a lot of guys get bows or even get into hunting and they're just not doing it often enough, and they're not doing it at the level that you need to get proficient, right? I mean, I often talk about it on here with like archery. The finish line isn't even in sight. Like if you're not doing reps constantly, you're moving away from your goal. Like there's no idle time available with archery. Yeah,
and it's not just that there's no idle time; it's that there's no idle headspace that's allowed. And it's a lot like becoming a very proficient pistol shooter to me. And unless you're able to do like we do in the military, or like I've been able to do with archery, just purely based on how my job works. If you cannot do hundreds in the realm of archery or thousands of repetitions for shooting a pistol every day for months, you are not only going to not develop good habits, but you won't develop any habits that are going to be useful.
Yeah.
You'll probably be a bit of a mess. And then when clutch time comes, I mean, how many people are actually clutch shooters?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is just purely based on a lack of repetitions and not being able to or willing to or even understand that in a clutch scenario or high stress, you will fall to your lowest level of proficiency.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, I had one of the shops I deal with here, a guy named Lucian, and he's one of those dudes that goes and just cleans the unknown 3D course, right? And we were talking about getting it down to muscle memory and getting through your process and like actually doing what you practiced. And like, I mean, you just touched on it. You get into the field and get in front of your first elk or your first good sized buck or your first bear that's 8 yards away or something. And it's like, it's coming apart at the seams if you're not mentally ready and have that muscle memory, right?
Yeah, precisely.
Especially in traditional archery too. It's a pain in the ass, man. You gotta work at that every day pretty much. Otherwise you're not going to be very proficient.
Yeah. Or, I don't know how many people really like to destroy arrows, but if you love destroying arrows, you should probably pick up traditional archery and not practice a lot.
I just posted a photo of a blown up axis the other day that came out of my recurve, so I feel you there.
Yeah, I've broken a few dozen, so I understand.
Yeah. No, I guess I think with the uptick in people getting into traditional archery, we should all take out stock in Easton and Black Eagle and all these companies.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Was Duds at all? Did he try and help you a little bit transition into traditional, or did it kind of go on your own on that?
No. So the idea was kind of on my own, but I did not go about it with no help. I cannot thank Aaron Schneider enough for. He and I were bullshitting a lot, like through Instagram and mostly about camera stuff. And so when I kind of had the urge to, hey, I want to pick this thing up and here's why, he understood what I was saying. And so he gave me a bit of advice. And then after that, he's like, and if you're really serious, man, you should probably just buy Clum's course. And that's what I did is I bought Tom Clum's course. I went through the course and all the course material, shot a bow about the size that Aaron suggested. Ended up getting a Hoyt Satori also and had been shooting that a bunch. So I just went about it like, all right, cool. Well, I guess I'm just going to be hanging out at 7 yards for a couple months. And I did have like a long-term goal, well, a 1-year goal, which was to go elk hunt with my trad bow. And I did, and we didn't see a single animal. So I didn't even get a chance to knock an arrow, but that wasn't for the worst because I felt comfortable with that bow based on how much I had been shooting it.
Nice. What, you kind of just said there, you told Aaron the why, and what was your why for going that direction?
One, it was curiosity.
Yeah.
Also, I knew that it wasn't easy, and I have like a romantic interest in the amount of difficulty that shooting a trad bow holds.
Yeah.
And now that I've been shooting one, I'm happy that I have been, and I'm also happy I didn't come into it thinking, oh, this is going to be easy, or this has got to be simple, or whatever. But that comes from the background of like, you hand somebody a pistol, they think it's probably easier to shoot than a rifle, and you're like, actually, it's the other way around, dog. Sorry.
Yeah, man. So I like live right at the range that I shoot at. Basically, I'm like a minute away. So, I'm the guy that's there shooting after dark when everybody's gone every day. And, dude, so often you're at that pistol range and people don't realize what it takes to shoot a pistol, man. It's heavy. It's just like a stick bow. There's such parallels. That's a great one.
It really is. And I would encourage everybody to try it out if they haven't. I understand you guys have a little bit more of a difficult time in, the Great White North than we do here.
Yeah, a little bit. That's that's also coming apart at the seams right now, but there hasn't been a whole lot of handgun talk other than at the city level.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother rabbit hole, but man, that's awesome. And that's, I think that's a great way to look at it too. Like 1 year goal, we talked about that in an earlier podcast, about, what it takes to pick up even a compound from not knowing anything to getting to the point that you're ready to hunt with it. And I kind of always try to lay guys out with a 1 year timeline, right?
Yeah. And I think that's a reasonable amount of time to tell somebody to pick up. That's just the equipment. That's not even understanding how the animals move, or, I mean, shit,
Yeah.
Some people that have never hunted, like they've never even seen something with the skin off.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. And like, it's sort of funny you saying that too, because you have that level of proficiency in other fields. So right. And I mean, you're probably the guy that can get after it faster than most.
Yeah. And Evan and Logan and the guys at Black Rifle have really given me the space to do what I want to do and to enjoy these lifestyle choices in a way that benefits myself, that will also benefit the company.
Yeah.
So I can just get after it like a crazy person. Granted, my personality is sort of kind of leans that direction. So getting after it like a lunatic that's my thing. with everything.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't been able to tell by how I do shit.
I think we're both in the same boat. I drive everyone I know crazy with everything that I do. Like we're like 4 weeks into this podcast and we're on episode 16. So it's all or nothing.
I mean, it's all or nothing, and there's really no other way to do it. Because if you're going to do it some other way, you might as well just throw it in the back burner and not really do it.
Yeah. Actually, I think you're episode 20 now that I think about it. But yeah, if you're not going to send it, don't bother. That's my opinion, anyways.
Yeah.
I think Wasey's kind of the same too.
I like to dive in feet first. Yep. Or head first.
That's, I don't know. It depends where in Canada you are, I guess. Right.
Mm-hmm. So, with the Black Rifle, so Mike Hearn, is he work part of that now as well?
Mike and I met at a hunter recruitment project, which I don't know if you guys have talked to anybody about that or what that is, but
no, but we should.
I can put you in touch with somebody after this, and it's a fantastic idea. So what it is two guys, Jamie Shira and Baker Levitt, who've been friends for a while. They put together this project idea where they were going to pull in people that have never hunted or people that have taken a huge break, like 15, 20 years due to life choices or work or kids or, whatever the case may be, and get them back into hunting. Because the last, decade or so, we've all across North America, we've seen a huge decline in actual hunter numbers, not the revenue that's being produced, right? So people are buying more expensive stuff and like hunting equipment and hunting things and tags. They're still selling them, but there aren't as many humans doing the hunts.
Yeah.
So the idea there is to get more people doing the hunts. And Mike came out on one of those as a mentor as well as I did to help some newer hunters or people that were brand new, had never done any sort of hunting, come out and hunt. And so that's how I got to meet him and talk to him.
Nice. Yeah, I talked to Mike a little bit. I was actually going to send him some moose jerky here. He told me he never had moose, so I was gonna hook him up here.
Yeah, I got a couple 100 pounds still in my cooler from moose.
Nice. That's a good moose, eh?
Oh yeah. No, I shot a big Canadian up in BC, up near Prince George 2 years ago. Nice.
Let's hear that story.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's see. I went up there with Dud and Andy and Evan and John Barclow, on a moose hunt. We were all bow hunting. That was the goal. I ended up shooting this thing with a rifle. And
it happens.
It happens. But I'm glad I did it because I was up there meat hunting. I didn't care. I mean, if the thing had paddles, I was going to shoot it. So I don't know, 3 or 4 days of hunting. It had been piss and rain, which is kind of standard, for that time of year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were calling. It was the first day where it was like sort of decent weather. So we figured, let's really give it a go, because if it's been raining this bad, then the animals are going to start to move now, at least a little bit. So we heard the grunts and then went down, kept hearing grunts, kept moving downhill, hit a small lake. It's about, I don't know, I'd call it about 600 meters long by about 200 meters wide. So long and thin. And we saw him across the way after we kept hearing grunts for about 40 minutes. And the guide who I'd hunted with for black bear the last 2 years before that, he turns to me and he goes, "Holy shit, that's the biggest moose I've ever seen." Yeah. And I'm like, "Well, shit, man, what's he going to do?" And he goes, "I don't know. Let's see what he does." So that moose comes out. And, he's full on rutted out like a lunatic. He's waving his paddles around, his tongue hanging out of his mouth, doing the entire, like the whole 9 yards. Right. And, we kept grunting and he kept cow calling back and forth. And this thing was interested, but he didn't want to come across the lake at all. And Ashley, he's like, "Hey man, if he gets really interested, he's going to swim across. Like there's a distinct possibility he'll just swim right to us." I'm like, "All right, cool." And then he's like, "Or he could try and walk around and that could take all night."
Yeah. You get there in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that was a big old moose and he wasn't big and old for no reason. So Ash was like, "Man," because it was starting to get towards sunset. He's like, "Here's the deal, man. That thing's gigantic. You're up here meat hunting. He's also huge. The guys at camp will probably kill you if you don't shoot this thing." Because he wasn't kidding when he said it was the largest moose he'd ever seen. So I was like, "All right, dude, hand me your rifle. What's it zeroed at?" And he told me, and he's like, "You comfortable?" I'm like, "I got it. It's fine. I promise. I won't
Yeah,
miss.
This dude can shoot.
Yeah, I got it." I mean, that's a legitimate question for a guy to ask. Like, are you going to be okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So he tells me, he's like, "Yeah, man, we'll see what he does. And, if he gets in the water, I'll hand you your bow." I'm like, "Okay, cool. But if he turns broadside, I'm going to kill him." He goes, "Okay." That thing turned broadside and he's like, as he was about to say, "Okay," I already had let one go. That thing stood up on its hind legs and spun a pirouette and fell over.
Yeah.
And
nice.
Like didn't go anywhere, which was great. And it took us like an hour to get around to the thing. And then we saw how big he really was. I think I put a picture up on it on my Instagram or something somewhere, but, he had like a 54 inch inside.
Yeah. I think there's a photo of you with your grandparents with it, right?
Yeah. And so that thing was a 54 inch inside spread. He scored like 185. And that was only because he was like 10 or 11 years old. So he would have been like a 200 incher, with all the tines scoring, but his paddles were just too big. He was too palmated.
What did you think when you first walked up? Because I know, like, I've killed many moose, and every time I walked up to him, I'm like, Jesus, this is going to be a lot of work right now.
Oh my God. That thing was huge. It felt like I walked up on a dinosaur. I'm like, what in the shit is this thing? This thing is gigantic. I mean, he was a big moose anyways.
I don't think people that have never hunted moose actually understand the amount of work that has to go in to get them out of there. It's incredible.
Well, and the real cool thing for me was I had decided before the trip that if I had more than 2 days left on the trip, I was going to process the whole thing by myself. Period. Now, not move it and get it, to the camp, but I had already decided I'm going to do all the butchery. Like, I've never butchered anything larger than a deer. And even that had some help. Just getting told what to do.
Yeah.
Well, man, I don't think I'm ever going to want to butcher a moose alone ever again. That was a ridiculous decision, but I'm glad I did it because now I've done elk and all sorts of stuff. And really, I feel super comfortable doing things alone.
It's sure nice when you go from butchering a moose to butchering a whitetail. You're like, man, this thing's a cakewalk.
Yeah, no shit. And then 2 weeks ago, I went out and harvested a bison, and my buddy and I butchered it in my garage. And he's like, "Oh, this is kind of getting easy." I'm like, "Man, am I glad I killed that moose and did that. This is so much easier because of it."
Yeah, man. So it sounds like you're on the straight wild game diet then, with the amount of stuff you're getting on the ground.
Yeah. God, I have probably 20 cubic feet of freezer that's almost full right now.
That's awesome. One thing. That's one thing about hunters. Every hunter I know has like 4 or 5 chest deep freezers, and they're usually full of meat all the time.
Yeah. And it's been really cool because I've been able to cook some for some events that have been hosted here in Salt Lake City at a gym that I go to. I've taken meat into work. I've taken my neighbors over here. They've come over to my house and like we've cooked for them. I've been able to give some of my grandparents, my parents. So being able to give away meat and feel good about it, knowing that I know where it came from, and because I have so much that I need to give it away, is really cool.
I think that's part of being a hunter. I give a lot away too. And I think that's just part of it, right? I always try to give it to people that don't hunt and try to give them a pack of hamburger or something here and there, and maybe just persuade them a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good tool for educating people too about hunting. I mean, you growing up in Southern California, you probably are used to being around people like the people in Vancouver here who just don't have any idea.
Yeah, and some of the things they don't even know are edible, and some of the stuff I'm learning is edible that like, why not give it a try? Like, somebody's got to eat it, like for instance, like javelina or brown bear, or there's things like that where people are like, that's just trash. And, maybe you're just not cooking it right.
Yeah,
I think sometimes people that don't come from a culture of hunting can be a little more open to that in a way that hopefully is going to breathe some life into some of these hunts in the future, and breathe some life into more hunters wanting to hunt some of these animals and participate in a entirely holistic way where they're eating every kind of thing that's out there. And maybe they learn they really like it. Like, maybe, for instance, I like javelina tacos. Like, they're good.
Yeah.
But I've known a bunch of people that are like, pickery are no good. And like, maybe it's no good for a steak, but maybe it's great for carnitas. Maybe they just take food. Maybe they take spices really well. I don't know.
Man, I think some time and some seasoning can make anything go a long way. Like, I mean, I've shot muley that don't eat very good, and it gets turned into sausage, or it goes in the crock pot or whatever then, right?
Yeah. And what's wrong with that? Nothing. It's fantastic food. You decided to end that thing's life, and now you get to eat it. And it's just perfectly part of the circle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the last kind of ready muley that I shot, my 2.5-year-old is loving it, and nobody else will eat it. So that's her deer. Man. So your first hunt ever was with Dudley and Andy.
Yeah, it was Dudley, Andy, and Chad Mendez.
Oh, nice. That's a combo, hey?
Chad. And I've been super fortunate.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say Chad Mendez is getting after it.
Yeah, Chad gets after it with everything, but I mean, you can see why, right? I mean, that's kind of his personality too. A champion wrestler and UFC fighter, and he crushes.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun, like watching yours and Andy Stump's kind of journey through archery and hunting, and there's a lot of parallels in just regular dudes too, kind of getting after it and getting frustrated and stuff like that. And I mean, some of you guys are going on hunts that other guys wish that they're going on, and it's cool to see into it, to see how kind of guys that are kind of more at the base level of hunting or dealing with some of these problems that come up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that all of us that have been exposed to hunting through Dudley and have been kind of in this, I don't know, Sitka Traeger circle of people. I think that we've all talked about it, and I really hope that we're, giving a good open image to hunting and, what we're doing and why we're doing it. And that we've been given these extremely fortunate circumstances, and which is why all of us answer questions. I mean, Snyder has said it over and over on his podcast. I've said it, Andy said it. Like, when somebody asks me a question, I'll either refer you to the person that I know will answer it correctly and the most succinctly, or I'll try. And anybody listening that has, followed me on social media, they know I really do try and answer everybody's damn questions. Like, I try and get back to frickin' everybody.
I mean, you're I think you're better on Instagram than like me even. And, I mean, that's how we met. We're making fun of each other on Instagram.
Yeah.
So, no, man, that's cool. And it's cool to be interactive with the people that are following you. You often see these guys that don't follow anyone and have 1 million followers and put out a message, but they're not doing anything for the community, Yeah.
Well, I mean, which is fine. That's your own space. If you want to live in that space, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's social media. It's not a paid for advertising service. So if somebody doesn't want to participate, that's fine. But
yeah.
I'm going to be participating with people because I've been given so much that a little bit of my time is worth that person's ask.
Dude, it's so easy to be a good, helpful dude when people are reaching out and you're in that position. You know what I mean? Like, look at Andy too. Andy's helping all kinds of dudes that are coming out of the military or dealing with whatever. And I mean, it's I don't know. It does rub me the wrong way a little bit when guys have this platform and they're not using it for good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it takes no energy to not be an asshole. Like,
yeah, there you go.
None.
Yeah.
It's super easy. And especially for guys like us that have been given so much, like, why not just try and be helpful? I can try.
Yeah,
maybe it doesn't help, but I don't know.
Yeah, man. And like, I mean, guys like Snyder, I think Snyder just broke 100,000 followers. Dude's a bow hunter and an all around good dude. And if you DM Snyder, he answers you. That's friggin' unreal.
Yeah, he does. And he legitimately tries. If you're going to be an idiot, he's not going to respond very well. Yeah. But just like anybody else, he's like, dude, it's social media. Like, I don't have a responsibility to be nice if you're going to be a dick. And I feel the same way. If somebody's going to be a pain in the ass, like, that's not my responsibility.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're doing good things. And I think a lot of guys in this space are, and it's great to see, man. So what's next for Trevor? I mean, there's a bunch of places we could go here, but what's on the we're closing in on Spring Bear here in BC right now. What's on the schedule?
So for me, hunting wise, I'll be going after turkey in Georgia.
Nice.
I'm not really sure on dates there yet. And then I'll be going up to Alaska to continue my education with and working for Cole Kramer, be guiding a brown bear hunt. And then after that, I'll be doing my own spring/summer black bear hunt in Idaho.
Nice.
What's your opportunities like in Utah for the spring?
They're pretty decent. So if you like to turkey hunt, we do have turkey. There is black bear, so you can put in for black bear. I did, and I didn't draw because it is a draw. So there's that, which is kind of standard. And I don't do those hunts because I go out of the state for them. Because I know there are places that have slightly better opportunity, a few more animals, and I have the ability to do that. So I'll be, black bear hunting in Idaho in a place that I know that there's a crap ton of bears, and so that's why we're going to go. Like, I like to be successful just like anybody else.
Yeah.
sure, I like to work hard, but for God's sake, like it'd be nice to get something at the back end of, a hunt. Which is why I'm planning on going to some of these other places.
Yeah. It's sort of an abstract idea for, us Canadians, and about like in the US, you guys get to bounce around state to state. Me and Wace here are super lucky that we have each other, because I host Wace Dog out here in BC and he hosts me in Alberta. But most dudes in Canada, you can hunt the province that you're in. And that's kind of it. But we are allowed to go south. I mean, not many Canadians take advantage of it, but I think most states in the US, you can just hunt as a non-resident alien the same way you would as a regular non-resident.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for every state, but as far as my understanding is, that's pretty true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colorado and Idaho for sure, I know.
And Texas and Montana and Utah.
Yeah, and Washington too. And I'm collecting points in Oregon.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a couple of units that I would want to hunt in Oregon. But yeah, man, I mean, I feel super lucky where we live, just with the amount of diversity we have here for species and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. And I mean, it's in large animals, I think what's cool about that is as long as you're successful, then you have a ton of meat. It's not like, so last year I shot a mule deer up above my house.
Cool.
Couldn't have been more than a 20-minute drive. I mean, I hunted him for a week straight before I got him, but that animal wasn't that huge, I mean, he must have weighed 160 pounds. Like, it's not like a huge deer. So you're not going to get a year's worth of meat out of that, no matter how you stretch it. So it's nice to have opportunities with larger animals. That's part of why I like to bear hunt, and it's part of why I like to elk hunt. And that's why I went up for moose. Like, I do want to have a lot of food for the year.
Yeah, for sure, man. In BC, there's such a variety too. Like down here on the coast where I am, we hunt blacktail, and then, an hour northeast, we're hunting muley, and then, a little further east, you're hunting whitetail. So it's a cool spot to be in, and yeah, man, exactly the same thing. It's nice to get a big animal on the ground too. That way that freezer gets full.
Yeah. Well, and maybe they'll open up grizzly bear at some point. Ever.
I hope so, man. We're pushing for it in Alberta, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. There's a lot of pushback.
Yeah. Which is weird. It's just such a strange thing for people to be contentious about. Like, those things are monsters. Like, they're monsters. They're terrifying. So I don't understand where this like cuddly bear, we need to save the bear thing comes from. I understand that they need to be conserved. I understand that there needs to be management, but these like knee jerk, flat out, no more type of responses are just ridiculous, and they're not based around biology. And I mean, that happened in California here, a couple months ago. Yeah. They tried to shut down black bear hunting. They flat out, they're like, no more black bear. That's just how it's going to be. And the hunting community from all over North America got behind it, and that bill got eaten alive. Yeah. Because they found out they had no biologists that were being informed on it, nothing. So as a community coming together, hopefully it helps up there in Canada too with grizzly bear. And I'm sure the biology will speak for itself at some point.
Yeah. Things are kind of spinning wildly out of control up here right now. I don't know if you follow anybody else from BC other than me, but you've probably seen it in my feed. There's been a real big push here lately from the hunting community, and specifically Wild Sheep Society here in BC. Mm-hmm. There's kind of a movement growing, and I don't want to call it like a direct attack or something like that, but it's sort of like it's kind of death by a thousand cuts in BC, right? It's all of these small little groups of anti-hunting stuff. They kind of all chip away at it, and they chip away at it, and they chip away at it. And then next thing you know, they have 4 million signatures or something stupid. Right. And it's like, they take it to the politicians, and the politicians look at it like, oh, there's, I think the latest big anti-hunting white paper that came out here, it was all worded as, social license contract, and they erode the social license contract over time. And this latest paper that came out, it basically listed all large carnivores, and it touched on sheep being a trophy species because apparently you don't eat sheep according to them, and elk as a trophy species because you kill them based on size, which is, I mean, complete bullshit because you kill a big elk because there's lots of meat, and because the biologists say a lot of places in BC you can only kill a 6-point elk. You have no choice.
Yeah. No, it's the same with sheep, right? Like,
yep.
They need to be a full curl and or like there's all sorts of extra supplementary stuff to make sure that they're maintaining the size of the herd or flock or whatever.
Yeah, man, you hit the nail right on the head with this stuff needs to be managed by science and like not dudes or Miley Cyrus or Ryan Reynolds or whoever that gets on this kick of I'm saving the wolves. Well, the wolves aren't endangered. They don't need help. Like,
yeah.
You know what needs help? Caribou. You know what needs help? Yeah. Like the elk in Estes Park in Colorado. They're going to need help when they release wolves there. It's like,
yep.
I can get way fired up about this stuff, but right now, Wild Sheep Society, like I said, is running a pretty cool campaign, getting signatures together, and it's sort of it's a proactive kind of thing that they're doing because these groups are gaining traction with the people that are uninformed, and as hunters, I think we need to do our part to educate non-hunters about what it is we're doing. Because I mean, like you and I know from growing up where we both did, if somebody tells them something about hunting, that's their perception, and it becomes their reality because they don't know nothing else, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the deeper I'm getting into hunting as a community and as a lifestyle, the more I'm also realizing that I need to be very clear about if the biology says, and if the biologist and the science says we need to hunt less, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Because so many people think that what we're saying is, we have some sort of science thing in our back pocket or biologists in our back pocket, and our being, the like royal we as a hunting community, and we don't. And the reality is we really do want there to be these animals forever.
Yeah.
I recently heard Raymond Warren on the Stickboat Chronicles talking about this, and he said that it's not going to be hunters that lose it. Or anti-hunters that shut it down. It's the middle of the roaders.
Yeah,
it's the people that don't know what to believe, and both sides are trying to persuade them to believe what is actually correct. And it's kind of hard right now with our community because not everybody's on the same page. And everybody, we got all these jackasses, and social media is really gonna hurt us in the long run with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it comes down to either, as much as a lot of people, with Ranilla and that he's a left winger and this and that, if I don't agree with a lot of things with what Ranilla says, it's so be it. He's done more for us as a hunting community than anybody. He's reached the middle grounders and even the non-hunters. Yep. and he's bringing them over. And I don't think either people need to, we all got to get on the same page or we're going to lose it all together. Everything.
Yeah. And it'll happen like death by 1,000 cuts. It's not going to happen overnight.
No,
it'll just all of a sudden you won't be able to do this or that. And, then you'll have to have this kind of license and that kind of permit. And, I'm not against any sort of permitting or licensing, but when it becomes so difficult and so bureaucratic, and it will, because that's just how we've seen everything function, that'll be a shame because there's going to be an entire class of people that are no longer able to enjoy the same things that their parents did purely because of a little bit of knee jerk that happened years prior.
Yeah, man, that's the truth. And the scary component of it too is it comes from all angles. You see it directly with the ban this hunt, ban that hunt, and you see it from the limit access this way, limit access that way, limiting seasons, everything else. So it's one of those things like I'm glad there's people like Wild Sheep Society or whoever else that are just on top of it. And we have those people working for us, or SCI too. SCI is great.
Yeah, no, I believe me, I completely agree. Like I'm literally a foot and a half away from a plaque. Like I'm a lifetime member for the Wild Sheep Foundation here.
Nice.
Like, that's a let your money, speak for you. Like, let your dollars be your mouth, because if you're unwilling to contribute, then maybe you can't, and that's okay. But if you just are unwilling to contribute, then you don't understand the implications of what these groups are doing. And specifically like Wild Sheep Foundation and SCI and Dallas Safari, and like, they're all doing great work trying to like keep what is already here and manage it better. Like, they really are, as a group, trying to live by the precept of leave it better than how you found it. Like, we have way more elk, we have way more bison, we have way more deer. There's way more everything in North America than there was 100 years ago. And if that's because of people wanting to eat those things, that's a good thing. And we need to get away from the anthropomorphizing, like, oh, big fuzzy bear, come on, people. Like, let's take a more cold reality approach to this, because if people didn't want to eat those things, we probably wouldn't have elk, sheep, goats, and bison right now.
Yeah. I ended a podcast the other day by saying, some of these people that are really on us with the trying to ban hunting stuff. It's the same people that say this to you while they're looking over their chicken McNuggets at you. It's a lot of these arguments that they're making are just, they're just emotionally based, and they don't actually really make sense. So it is, like you're saying, it is truly important to put our dollars to work. And
it's up to us as people that do hunt and want to continue hunting to educate. And by educate, I mean educate, not like be a proselytizer. You're not on the street. Like, do you have 10 minutes to listen about hunting? No. One, I don't. And two, go away. The reality is we need to be the people that they look at and they're like, oh man, like, that guy's out there picking up trash and isn't talking about it. And he's just picking it up because he wants, the park to look real good. And, when you kill something, you drag it away from the damn trails. It's things as simple as that once they are touching all parts of the community and people are being hyper respectful, others will see it, whether or not they're a hunter or not. Yeah. And it's never the person that you're feeding the meat to. It's never the person you're talking to that matters the most. It's always third order. It's their mom's boyfriend or, their cousin or their nephew that they told about how you interacted with them. That's who matters. Yeah. It's that like extra ring outside of the circle that is going to make the biggest difference.
Yeah. Yep. I couldn't agree more, man. And that's why I hate to use the term, because it was in that kind of white paper I was just talking about, but that's why this whole social license contract thing is real, and it's a real threat to us as hunters. And that's why like what we're putting out there on social media, it's like it's super important. You see some of these big hunting pages and some of these people on social media, it's like, man, maybe tuck the deer's tongue back in before you take that photo, or turn its head so you can't see that it's covered in blood. And I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of guys will be like, oh, well, why? That's real life. And you're like, well, man, it's going to save hunting for you if you put out the image that you want people to see, that's going to look good on hunting, and, maybe save some of those stories for in your own community and not for putting out into the world. It's like we're all little PR machines now with social media.
Yeah, everybody is. And everybody's responsible for the legacy they're going to leave behind.
Yeah, man, that's the truth. Hey, so I saw recently, isn't Evan Hafer like the president of the Sportsman Association now or something like that?
So I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm not positive on his title there.
Yeah.
But yes, he is deeply and highly involved. And Evan gives a shit about conservation.
That's wicked.
And then hunting, because he wants those animals and those parks to be around for his daughters.
Yeah, dude, couldn't agree more. I mean, me and you spend half of our conversations talking about my kids right now. And man, I couldn't agree more. Like, I want this stuff to be on the landscape forever. And I want my kids to be able to go experience the stuff that we're experiencing, right?
Yeah, and it can be if we put our dollars to work, if we put our mouths to work, and if we do what needs to get done and enjoy it while we're doing it.
Yeah. I'm gonna start harassing Evan to try to get him to come on and talk conservation with me and waste here. That'd be cool. I know he's a busy dude, but we'll see. I mean, so are you.
It's possible, and he and I are good friends, so maybe I can poke him a little bit.
That'd be cool.
I was just gonna say, what Doug Dern says. It's not ours. It's just our turn now.
Yeah, it really is.
Doug actually just texted me back while we're sitting here, and he was like, "I'm in. Let's do it Wednesday night." So that's cool.
So I want to jump back quick because we're getting up there in time. But so your hunts this spring, Trev. Are you going to be rocking the stick bow for bear or anything?
No. Okay. So I'll probably take the stick bow and my compound for black bear. It's going to really be determined on the area and how I feel about what the bears are doing. And
me and Trevor are best friends. That's what I do.
Yeah. So I'll take it. And if it's the right weapon for the job, then I'll use it. And I mean, I'm shooting a heavy bow and a heavy arrow, so I'm not really worried about that thing killing something.
Yeah.
It's like 64 pounds at my draw, and I'm shooting like 700 grain arrows. So
are you still shooting the Hoyt, or I think I seen you with a different bow there now?
Yeah, actually, last year I had South build me one from Stalker stick bow. Yeah,
I looked in the pictures. I couldn't put my thumb on it, but I was going to say South. But.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's a piece of art. That thing's amazing.
Yeah, he's a cool cat too.
Gus handmade wood bows have some soul to them, and not just like a compound or something where they're all the same. But a nice wood bow has some soul to it. It's got to speak to you when you pick it up.
That's the damn truth. And anything that's made by hand and anything that somebody has to put their heart and soul into. I mean, like Selway built me a couple quivers, and the thing is, like, I really feel a connection to people putting their hands on stuff like that. Yeah. It means a lot. It's a special piece of working art that hopefully we'll be able to create some food. And, I haven't yet. I haven't really killed anything with that bow. I've put some time in and tried, but it'll happen.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, so I'll take it with me because it's takedown. Like the thing weighs nothing. So why not take it? And if the landscape presents the opportunity for me to use it, I'm going to use the damn thing because it's hard. Yeah. And I've been able to hunt a lot of black bears, so I kind of understand how they function. Well, I've been able to hunt a lot of black bear in the amount of time I've been hunting. Let me rephrase that. Yeah. So
I think black bear is like the perfect introductory species though, right?
Yeah. Especially if you really just need the opportunity to be successful, then you can hunt over bait if you want. And that can really lead to a very successful hunting scenario. I've only spot and stalked black bear. I love it like that. It's super fun. I think it's really cool. You can make some weird mistakes that you can't make with deer, sheep, or goats because they can't see for shit. So like really see the way that, you would think another prey animal would, but there are other mistakes that you can't make that are really going to teach you, like sound and smell. Like those things are better than hound dogs. So
yeah,
I think it's a really cool animal to hunt. I think it's a really cool introductory animal.
Yeah, I think that or hogs. If a new archer could get in on a week-long hog hunt where you could get lots of arrows off, I think you could learn a lot like that too.
Oh yeah, sure. And you can spot and stalk hogs, and anybody who says you can't, they haven't tried it.
Definitely, yeah.
So we're coming up on an hour here, and we went hard down the conservation rabbit hole. So you know what? I'd love to kind of touch on you doing some guiding now, right?
Yeah. So I've been given the opportunity because he asked, and I said yes, to guide for and with Cole Kramer in Kodiak, Alaska, as well as the peninsula eventually.
That's right.
Being, I wanted to become a whole hunter. Like I wanted to learn the entire process. And for me, that meant all different kinds of game. That meant learning how to not be the hunter, but the guide. It's a whole thing. Like there's more pieces to the puzzle than just going out and pulling a trigger.
That's the truth, man. I saw on your Instagram that you were in on a goat kill, and me and Wace are doing an archery goat hunt August this year.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I've been on I don't know, 8 or 10 now.
Nice. Have you got one on the ground yet?
Me? No, I've been assistant guiding or packing for all of those.
Nice. And that's up in Alaska.
Yep, it's on Kodiak. Hopefully at some point I'll be able to put in for sheep or goat or something, and I'll go hunt one of those.
Yeah,
either with Cole or just alone. I really do enjoy hunting alone. It's real fun.
Yeah, I think both me and Wasey spend most of our time hunting alone.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super fun. There's a lot of time for introspective work and stuff like that. It would be cool to maybe hear about, I don't know, maybe what's kind of been your most meaningful hunt you've been on to date. The short answer, the easy answer might be the first one, but
yeah, and I was going to go there anyways because, well, maybe not. Maybe it was, the mule deer I shot last year. I went up and scouted and glassed for deer for maybe a month-ish prior with a friend of mine who he's been hunting that area for years, and he didn't draw there, but he's like, man, I told you to put in for here, and I know it pretty well. I'll take you up and let's look around.
Yeah.
Did that. And then went up there, and I was hunted alone for a week. Finally put the deer on the ground after having a bunch of stalks blown, and like the standard mule deer story, up, down a huge amount of terrain.
Yeah.
There's a doe you didn't know was there. She blows you out. There goes the buck. They're gone. Happened a couple times. It was pretty warm, and I finally got one on the ground, and it was a long shot. I mean, it was like 48 yards, steeply downhill. So it was probably more like a 57 or 58 yard shot or something with a cut. And I got the thing all skinned and butchered and took it out. Maybe a poor decision, but all in one trip.
Mm-hmm.
It was a heavy pack, and I'd been already guiding a little bit, so I kind of understood how that functioned. So that all meant a lot because I did it alone, and it came at the end of learning how to bow hunt, learning how to hunt, learning how to skin and butcher. And then finally all the pieces came together, and I did it alone. And it was purely because of all of these other people putting their time and energy into me. And then me having the willingness to put into practice what they wanted me to do.
Yeah. It was the adaptation of everything up to that point, right?
Yeah.
That's huge, man. Your first animal by yourself was always massive. And I'm sure there'll be many more.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're in that stick bow club next time we talk.
I hope so. We'll see. If it happens, it happens. I'd like it to, but you can never. It's hunting, right? It's not killing.
That's the truth, man. That's the truth. Well, hey, man, I think that's a good spot for us to put a pin in the conversation here, and it'd be great to have you back on again, maybe mid-season or something, or maybe after the spring, and hear how it went. Yeah, for sure. We'll get it scheduled out, and I won't be quite so hard to pin down next time, I promise. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe and follow us on Instagram @WildernessLocals, or check out the gear at our website, www.wildernesslocals.net.